Recording in progress.
Before we start, Councillor Roach, do you want to set up your computer thing? Welcome, everyone. We're going to start our meeting. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee of the City Council. I'm Andrea Kelly. I'm the chair. With us in the chamber, we have members of the Land Use Committee with us, city councilors from Ward 1, Councillor Allison Leary. From Ward 2, Councillor Tariq Lucas. I'm from Ward 3, from Councillor Randy Block from Ward 4, Julie Irish from Ward 5, Sean Roach from Ward 6. We may have someone here from Ward 7 who's not here yet, and from Ward 8 we have Councillor Stephen Farrell. As you can tell, you who are new, there is a member from each ward on each committee. So we have somebody from each of the 8 wards on this committee. With us tonight, also not on the committee, we have City Councilor Susan Albright on Zoom. We have some city staff with us, our clerk sitting right here in person, Curtis Bucher, and we also have some of the city planners with us online, Sandria Berman and Zach Melcher that I see. Do we see Jonah there yet? Oh, and from the law department, Jonah Temple. We like to have planning and law department sitting in on these meetings to help keep us on course. Tonight we have 3 items that will be before us for a public hearing and discussion and voting or not. The first one is item number 104-26, which is a request to allow 4 attached single-family dwellings and associated relief at 60 Brookside Ave. This project has been before us before, and they're coming back with some updates. So first, I'm going to go to the representative for the petitioner to update us on things that have changed in response to our last meeting, Mr. Lee. And after Mr. Lee speaks, we will hear from the planning department, and then we'll open the public hearing. Go ahead, Mr. Lee. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Lawrence Lee with the law firm of Rosenberg, Friedman & Lee. Office is at 246 Walnut Street in Newton. Thank you, Chair. We are here for the second time. Our first land use hearing was back in March, so good to see you all again. With your permission, I would like to share my screen, please. So I'm going to try to quickly summarize the changes that we've made, but I will also recap just as a refresher of what the project is all about. So as a quick recap, we are in an MR1 zoning district located on Brookside Avenue, 15,000 square feet of land with an existing 2-family. What we're looking to do here with a special permit is for 4 residential dwelling units. There are some nonconformities to the site, and what we're looking to do is to develop a home that resembles the streetscape and the neighborhood. The design has already been reviewed previously by the Historical Commission favorably. Here's a summary of some of the changes that have been made since the last time we've met. We reduced the size of the buildings. We had originally a single attached building. Now it is 2 separate buildings. It looks like a single family house with a carriage house on the side, which is subordinate. The height of the main building is under 36 feet. The carriage house, quote unquote, is about 25 feet in height. We have reduced the number of special permit waivers. Sorry for the mic here. We have reduced the number of special permit waivers Lot coverage is now compliant with the special permit requirements. The rear setback has been improved from 15 feet to just shy of 30 feet. And we have resolved the interior parking maneuvering widths inside the garage on the first level. Open space has increased to 64%. Minimum is 50% in a by right or a special permit situation. And so those are the very quick summary of changes that we have made. To the extent that may be helpful for certain counselors, this is an aerial assessor zoning map of the location. And here is a side-by-side comparison of the zoning table from the previous proposed to the current proposed. As you can see, the lot coverage has been reduced. The open space has increased. And particularly in this situation here, the rear setback has increased to just under 30 feet. This is the zoning table, of which several of the waivers are no longer needed, which have been crossed out. And here's a side-by-side comparison in terms of the living area square footages that have been reduced. So previously, we had just over 10,000 square feet of living space square footage. That has been now reduced to 9138 square feet. You will note as part of the planning memo, the FAR calculations, it did increase simply because the top floor attic space counted towards that number. However, it is important to note that the living area square footage did reduce. Renderings of the new building. You may not be able to see the changes, but there is a separation between the two buildings on the lower drawing. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I can see it on my screen, but the cursor on the main screen is black, so it's hard to see. But if you were to look at the right, the lower right image, that is the current rendering. One of the question marks that have been raised was where a transformer could be located. So you'll see on the lower right side, there is a fenced enclosure. That's where a electrical transformer would be located if determined by the utility company one is required for this project. Another thing to note is that on this side, the left-hand side of this driveway, we have eliminated the labeling of it as a parking space. The intention here is that it would be serving as a temporary drop-off location for residents, deliveries, things like that. And we will, for that section of that driveway, use pervious materials for that part of the driveway directly in front of where the transformer will be located. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the site plan. The left-hand side is the previous version. The right-hand side is the current version. As you can see clearly, there's a breakup of the massing between the two buildings so that when you walk by this property, it'll appear to be a single-family house with a carriage house on the side. This is an image of side-by-side comparison between the existing house and the new proposed current iteration. Two-dimensional elevations are provided here on all four sides of the property. This is the front view. I can go back to any of these images if anyone likes, and I'll just go through these quickly. This is a side view. As you can see, the back portion of the house, the prior version, has been eliminated. So on the left-hand side, that addition is no longer there. On the right-hand side, you'll see that that's an open space. You'll also see that we've eliminated some windows on the upper floors on this elevation as a result of our discussions with our immediate abutter to the left-hand side of our property. This is a side-by-side image of the rear elevation. And then the right-hand side elevation. previous and current landscape plans. And some of the landscape details. We will be replacing all required trees per the tree ordinance. And these are the similar details that have been previously provided in the prior petition, but as they are just updated. Some new landscape and screening were provided as part of our consultation with our direct abutter. So this is a updated plan from the landscape architects as well. As the planning memo noted, we will be using dark sky compliant lighting throughout for residential purposes. And here are the interior floor plans. So these are the changes that have been made to the lower level of the property. The garage has been amended. You will see hash marks that are noted where what we're calling as the hammerhead backup spaces that are required for the garages in order for us to eliminate the need for that parking maneuvering waiver in the special permit. And then the following slides are related to the current iterations of the interior floor plans of the buildings. Happy to go through any one of these as you see fit. So I'll quickly go through these. And then that's my last slide, and happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. It was really helpful to have the site plans and the elevations for us to be able to picture that. Now we'll hear from the planning department, who can speak to their concerns and augment anything they think was missed in the petitioner's presentation. Ms. Berman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just bear with me as I pull up my screen. And thank you to Attorney Lee for providing that presentation. I will do my best not to duplicate or dwell on anything that he had already provided to you. So again, here we have returning to us a special permit site plan approval to allow for single-family attached dwellings on 2 buildings, requiring relief for the use, dimensional relief, parking relief, and relief for a series of retaining walls over 4 feet in height. Again, we have our oversized 15,363 square foot lot in an MR1 district. The Brookside Avenue is situated as a perpendicular street connecting Washington Street and Route 16 to the Newtonville neighborhood. And it is walking distance to amenities and public transit along Washington Street. The lot is improved with a 2.5-story two-family dwelling and an attached two-family dwelling. And the surrounding area does include 2 MR1, 2, and 3 districts, consisting of primarily residential uses ranging from single-family to 3-family dwellings. And in addition, the topography of the lot does slope upward from the front of the property to the rear, with a total change in grade of approximately 9 feet starting along the Brookside street frontage. Again, in terms of the zoning relief requested, we have to allow the use for single-family attached dwellings, to allow reduced side setbacks, to allow reduced lot area per unit, to allow parking within the front setback, and to allow a series of retaining walls over 4 feet in height, within 25 feet of each other. Again, here we have our standard 4 special permit criteria that are applicable, that the site's an appropriate location, that it will not adversely affect the neighborhood, there will not be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and that access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. We have parking criteria, which stipulates that literal compliance with the city's parking regulations is impracticable due to the nature of the use or other dimensional characteristics of the lot, or that such exceptions would be in the public interest, in the interest of safety, or the protection of environmental features. Again, dimensional criteria, that literal compliance with the city's dimensional standards for setbacks and minimal lot area per unit is impracticable again due to the nature of the use or dimensional characteristics of the lot, or that such exceptions are in the public interest of safety or the protection of environmental features. And finally, retaining wall criteria, that the lot presents challenging topography that limits the use of the property, thus that it couldn't be improved without the implementation of the series of retaining walls, that the retaining walls will not adversely impact adjacent property, the neighborhood, or the public, and that the retaining walls that provide the minimum height necessary to allow the subject property to be reasonably utilized. In terms of overall site plan changes, Attorney Lee did describe this in detail. The significant change would be that the project has been broken up into 2 separate buildings, still with 4 units, but with 3 units in Building 1 and 1 unit in Building 2. There are new retaining walls at the rear, measuring 1.5 feet in height and therefore not requiring relief. There's also a new hardscape design, the addition of the 3 new rear patios behind buildings 1 and 2, as well as a walkway between the buildings. Again, Attorney Lee covered this, but these are the 3 items that were reduced in terms of the prior relief requested. Reduction in the rear setback relief. They have extended that rear setback reduction for minimum in relief for minimum lot coverage. They're now compliant. And again, with the restricted end stall parking for the garage, they have increased the turning radii there, so they are now compliant. In terms of other improvements to the site plan, there's a reduction in the number of proposed parking stalls from 10 to 9 stalls. They did remove 1 tandem visitor surface parking stall at the front of the dwelling. There also is, Attorney Lee mentioned, an increase in the open space to 64% and a reduction in the building massing and the overall floor area, where the original was 10,366 square feet. They are now at 9,138 square feet for the project. And as Attorney Lee mentioned, the FAR did increase, but that increase is due to the increase in ceiling height and more of the floor area being applicable to the FAR calculation. Other revisions to the site plan, there is an increase in impervious surface area from 190 square feet to 699 square feet. However, this is due to the reconfiguration of the project into 2 buildings and the addition of the hardscape patio areas and walkways that were added to the site plan. There's also a slight increase in the proposed driveway width from 13 feet to 13.3 feet, as well as a reconfiguration of the retaining walls over 4 feet in height. I believe the prior plans maximum height for retaining walls was 6.6 feet. However, here they have increased to 9 feet, but the overall design of the retaining walls is roughly similar to the prior plan, allowing for driveway accessibility to the below-grade garage. In terms of some of our comments on this, planning notes that the revised civil and architectural plans do break up the massing of the project and reduce the overall footprint and square footage of the project while remaining compliant with the maximum height and stories allowed by right. The project is closer to full zoning compliance with the reduction of 3 items of relief, and the petitioner has also reduced the number of parking stalls and increased open space. The landscaping plan is largely consistent with the former version relative to tree removals and mitigation. This landscape plan, though, also stipulates that 10 trees will be allocated to abutters recommendations for preferred planting locations for privacy. The proposed lighting plan is also dark sky compliant, and planning also notes that the petitioner has uploaded a revised site plan, civil plans to include the transformer location, and it is compliant with the minimum 25-foot setbacks. That concludes the planning presentation. I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Berman. The next part of this meeting is we open the public hearing. Councilor Roach, are you all set up for that? Would you like me to explain what it is you're doing?
I am, and I was already set up with.
I just want to
Attorney
let
Lee?
people know.
Yes,
that,
please go ahead.
if you're in the chamber and you want to speak and you come to the podium where Mr. Lee is now, you'll be able to be on the screen because Councilor Roach is so clever and has set up his laptop in reverse to show you so that we don't just look at the back of your head. I'll take people in the chamber and on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, raise your hand and I'll fairly go between the two. Before I do that, though, I want to welcome Councilors Maliki and Wright, who are city councilors but not on the committee, who have joined us on Zoom. So why don't I start with people in the chamber? Go ahead, sir. Just give us your name and address, please, and you've got 3 minutes.
Hello, Chair Kelly. And
Can we make sure your microphone is on? It's at the base of the black.
Oh, it's on.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, members and near and far. My name is Richard Frank. I live at 68 Brookside Ave. I'm a south abutter. Got that right this time. So the applicant did make changes, but there are no changes as it affects us. In fact, we have lost something like 38 feet 33 feet of separation that we've had for over 30 years. So instead
Speak into the microphone.
of the required 25 feet, we're going to have something like 15 feet. The rear setback was never an issue. So the units are required to have 4,000 square feet. And with 4 units, that's going to be under 4,000 square feet. And that is required, getting a waiver on that is required if the lot is impractical. But there's nothing impractical about this lot. The only thing that these changes help is the addition of a 4th unit. 3 units could be built without any issues, or certainly not the serious issues that they have. So a self-created reason is not a hardship. So we ask that you deny the petition or reduce it to 3 units. And I'm also interested in where the transformer is going to be. If that's not decided, I'm not sure how you can vote to approve this at this time. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Hi, hello. I'm Allison Conant. I live with Richard at 68 Brookside. Thank you. We're abutters. Oh, that's loud. I think that Mr. Lee did mention where the transformer was. I just want to say this earlier on, but I missed it. I couldn't see where it was, so that's one of my questions. I agree that the developer did come back with some changes because they were requested by this committee to make some changes. The changes, as my husband said, do not benefit us. The rear setback, the increase in the rear setback, the property in the rear, that is a driveway and a garage. So there is really no benefit to that property owner for increasing that setback. And then one of my questions is, there may be more open land, but how does the addition of 3 times as much patio space affect the drainage and other things that will affect our property and maybe the people on the other side? Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Conant. Anyone else in the chamber want to speak on this? I don't see any hands on Zoom. There we go. DXREX? I'm not sure. Can you just tell us your name and address, please?
I am Dan Pike at 59 Brookside Ave. I'm the abutter across the street. Are you hearing me well?
Yes, what's your last name again, please?
Pike, P-I-K-E.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. Go ahead.
Okay, I was talking yesterday with my adult daughter who grew up in the house at 59 Brookside Ave, and I was explaining to her about what's going on at 60, and that some people want to build a 4-unit building, and she was just astonished. And she was like, what makes them think that's a good idea? This is a neighborhood of single and 2-family houses. Where did the idea of a 4-unit property come from? And I was really at a loss to answer. I really didn't know why. But it seems to me that the council is ready to waive the land use rules and regulations that the council created. And I cannot see any benefit to the neighborhood of doing that. There might be some benefit for some external people who aren't even Newton residents, but I don't see any benefit to the neighborhood. We filed a petition several months ago that was almost unanimously signed by everybody in the neighborhood saying, we don't think this is an acceptable plan. 4 units may be in somebody's interest, but it's not in ours. Done.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. Anyone else on Zoom like to speak or comment on this? And if not right now, raise your hand and wave at us, and I will, I'm sorry.
Counselor Kelly, Mr. Pike's, the woman with Mr. Pike appears to want to.
A woman with Mr. Pike.
make
That
no-
woman happens to be his wife. Hi.
I make no assumptions.
Go ahead, please.
I am Bara Littman Pike, and we are unfortunately out of town on vacation. Otherwise, we would be there to support our neighborhood in person. But since not, I'm here to speak on the behalf of the abutters. We're across the street at 59 Brookside Ave. So I would just like to remind all of you that the Land Use Committee and the City Council, all of you, have approved 1,000 housing units to be built on the Washington Street corridor from West Newton to just north of Whole Foods. 1,000 housing units. Though one more unit on Brookside Ave may not seem like much, to you, it will make a permanent impact on this neighborhood of 1 and 2 family homes. So I have one question for all of you to consider, and that is, who wins? Because I certainly know who loses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pike. Anyone else on Zoom like to add a comment or ask a question? I don't see anyone, but if you think of it, while the public hearing is still open, do raise your hand, whether it's waving happily like Ms. Pike did or raising your virtual hand. We're going to take this into the committee now for some discussion and response to the renewed proposal. Any committee members? Councilor Lucas first.
Thank you, Chair. We heard from several of the neighbors. We heard from Mr. Lee in the planning department, and there's still an outstanding question on the transformer. So, Mr. Lee, could you just, if you could, bring up a site plan or architectural plans and just show us the precise location of the transformer, and then maybe we can put that issue to bed.
If you can see this, the transformer will be in this location right here within the driveway area.
And what is the, is that in the 25-foot setback?
Outside of the 25-foot setback.
It's outside of it. Okay, good. I just want to be sure on that. Okay, good. Thank you.
And it looked like it had a fenced enclosure.
That is correct.
And that was pending on the utility company's approval? Is that what you said? Or-
That's correct. The final location will be up to them.
Okay, but with that being said, if they say no to that location, what is another location it could go?
If it requires an amendment to this, or if it is, let's say, inside a setback, we would have to come back to you.
Even though you're already seeking relief to build into the setback, you still need to come back for the same relief?
No, there's no relief because we're outside of the setback currently.
No, you don't understand. Right now, the buildings are being built into the setbacks. So you are seeking that relief. If the transformer has to go in the setback, if the utility company denies this location, what I don't understand is why do you have to come back? Because you're already seeking relief to build into the setback.
The way it works is that the setback relief is very specific in terms of the distance we're seeking.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Sure thing.
So, you know, we had the community meeting about a month or so ago over Zoom, which is where we first saw the changes. I appreciate the changes, but I don't think the changes incorporated the feedback that we heard from the neighbors from the first public hearing. Just about everyone on the street said they wanted to see 3 units with single-family attached, not 4. 4 is too many, in my opinion. We heard it's a neighborhood of single and 2-family homes. You're also seeking relief because the lot isn't big enough for 4 units. The other issue I have with this is that, as I just said a minute ago, one of the buildings is being built into the setback. I don't know why we're building into the setback. I'm reasonable on setbacks, but we heard from the direct abutters that they are opposing this. They want the 25 feet. If you want single-family attached, you need to give them the 25 feet. I don't see why. I mean, I don't get it. And for those reasons, and those reasons alone, the setbacks, the 4 units, not 3 units, I'm having a very difficult time supporting this special permit. Those are my comments for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Within the committee who we're hearing from first, I'm going to go to Councillor Block and Roach as they had their hands raised. I'm just going to mention to the public, the Pikes, you've already spoken once. I'm not going to call on you again. Susan Albright, I see your hand up, and I will call on you once we're done with the committee. Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions for the Planning Department. One has to do with the parking. How many parking stalls are included in the newly proposed plan, and how many are required for this construction?
Thank you, Councillor Block, for your question. For this specific project, there are 2 parking stalls required per unit. So given that there are 4 units proposed, that would be a total of 8 stalls, which they have provided below grade in the garage parking. They have also added 1 visitor parking stall that is dimensionally compliant within the front setback. So that would be a total of 9 stalls.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. So the 8 parking stalls, these are all below ground in one of the structures that's proposed, is that right?
Correct. The stalls are located primarily under Building 1.
And when I look at the image of that parking area, I just have to say, reminds me of a sardine packing. Are you satisfied that the turning radius is adequate for these, for that layout, for that number of parking stalls?
The petitioner has made the effort to meet the dimensional requirements for that turning stall and restricted end stall dimensions. So to that point, they have complied and they have removed that relief. I would transfer the question over to Attorney Lee if he has anything further to add in terms of the revisions to the garage area.
Well, I appreciate the reference to the size of the stalls. It feels like perhaps there needs to be more analysis of how cars get in and out of that space. It looks pretty tight to me, but I haven't seen the turning radii. I haven't seen anything to make me feel comfortable with it. Let's just say that. So we can perhaps leave this for a little bit later. The current structure that's there now, how would you characterize that structure? Is it run down? Is it in good shape? Is it occupied? Do you have information about the current structure that's proposed to be demolished?
Is this for Ms. Berman?
Yes, this is for planning, yes.
There were no materials submitted with this application that went into detail, particularly regarding the status of the existing dwelling. We have the dimensional components. It's a 2.5-story single-family dwelling, but in terms of the interior of the home and how well it's been kept up, that information was not provided to us.
And the exterior of the home, any thoughts about that?
It's an older home that was constructed in circa 1865, but it does have, a beautiful curb appeal. It's set back from the street. And my understanding as well is that this petition is also looking to maintain that distance from the street, as well as, designing it to look as though it is a single family, to present as a single family from the street as well.
In the course of your discussions with the petitioner, did you discuss the possibility of adaptive reuse of this structure?
Typically, when we receive applications, we process them according to what the petitioner is requesting to build, and the relief that they're seeking. Oftentimes, we don't engage in sort of offering other ideas for alternative projects for the most part.
So you kind of just react and respond to what the petitioner is proposing as opposed to trying to guide it in any particular direction. Is that fair?
That's fair. That our responsibility is to vet the proposals that come before us for zoning compliance, and that's our primary responsibility.
Well, I think that explains in part why we keep getting proposals to demolish structures. Madam Chair, in the course of listening to the public, not just abutters to this project, neighbors to this project, but lots of projects around this city, we are losing buildings that have perfectly good use left in them. And we're losing them because land is so valuable that it's financially worth it to tear them down and build new structures. Sometimes, as in this case, doubling the number of residential units from 2 to 4. We're here to make determinations. I'm keenly aware of that. And our personal preferences about the attractiveness of the design, which I don't think there's much dispute over, the size of the units, whether they're a little too large or a little too small, these are things which I put aside in evaluating how to make these determinations. And the key one is the adverse impact on the neighborhood. And the destruction of this house does not, it seems to me, recommend itself. And I'm troubled by the parking arrangement in the basement level, because if that's not easily accessible, then cars won't use it unless they absolutely have to. So the street is going to be more congested, and I don't think that's very helpful for anybody. So I, like Councilor Lucas, have my own reservations about this and am very troubled by it. So I'm going to have a hard time supporting this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Block. Before I move on, I wonder, Mr. Lee, do you want to address some of the questions that just came up before we move on to the next councilor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start with perhaps going back to Councilor Lucas's comments with respect to setbacks and density and so forth. Whenever I look at special permits, and I've been before you many times, I look at context. I look at what can be done as a by right option. And we have covered this previously. This is an old MR1 lot where a by right side setback is 7.5 feet 36 feet in height, lot coverage being 30% as opposed to 25%. So in short, a by right 2-unit building effectively is a bigger building than what is being presented tonight. It can be a lot closer to the side setbacks as a matter of right without a special permit. So from a context standpoint, going through this process allows us to, yes, increase the density, but that also allows us the financial flexibility to build something that is what I like to simplify it as pretty. This is a very carefully designed building. It is set back over 50 feet from the front lot line on purpose to maintain the current streetscape. The Historical Commission went through a design review of this particular building, and they voted in favor to approve it. The current house is not in good condition. It was occupied by a lot of occupants at one point. And it is not something that is ripe for adaptive reuse, which is really a VCOD terminology for MRT zoning, this is not the case. So an alternative to that would be to build a building that resembles a single-family architecture that fits within the neighborhood. So I wanted to really address that part in terms of density. I have spoken with my clients. That has been raised previously at the last land use hearing, as well as separate meetings with the abutters. The design that you see currently will not be what you would see in a 3-unit building. The units will be bigger, probably around 3,000 plus square feet each. The design will not be as, again, using a simple term, as pretty. And it just will look very different. So from that standpoint, we did an analysis, and my client has indicated to me that that would not be a special permit project for them. So effectively what you see tonight is what they can do to make this feasible. We hope you agree, but otherwise, if that's not the case, then we would have to seek what options there may be in a by right setting. With respect to the garage, the dimensional requirements have been met. This is not the first time this board has approved interior garages that are shared with maneuvering, interior maneuvering aisles. We have presented many projects where the parking spaces are actually tighter. We went through this analysis in the first meeting. And what we have found, particularly in my personal experience with special permit projects with similar types of parking arrangements, is the market forces will dictate. Someone with a very, very large vehicle prefers driving large vehicles will not be buying these units. They will be touring, inspecting, walking through the units up and down before they make a decision to make a purchase, to make sure that it works for them. I have seen buyers test out garages before they make an offer to make a purchase. They would literally drive a car into the garage and out to make sure it works for them. And so overall, I think a special permit allows the feedback and community discourse that we've engaged in. I think it is a better project than what we presented originally, and I think it is a better project than a by right alternative. Thanks.
Thank you for now. There may be more questions for you. Let's move on. Councilor Roach, you're next, followed by Councilor Farrell.
Thank you. Councilor Lee, on the issue of transformer, so this is going to be a hot topic, just so you know. Councilor Lee is very well aware. I'm not convinced that we have enough information and that there is information available. Sorry, I can't turn around. Sure. I think that for instance, the fence is probably going to be too close to the transformer for Eversource's liking. So I think that it would be better, and I would actually encourage either another meeting or subject to second call, really getting specifics from Eversource about what whether the proposed transformer will be in compliance, because I appreciate that it could go elsewhere, but could go elsewhere then becomes the problem that we're trying to avoid. So transformer, I think we need more information. Drainage, I think that's a great question. Is there going to be, so as far as I can tell from the elevation, the water comes down from the building to the front and to the street. Is there going to be stormwater catchment along there to make this site better than it is currently?
Yes, so the stormwater will meet the city's regulations. We're not allowed to add water to our neighbors. One of the plans, which is a drainage plan, I don't believe I have that in my screen, but I have it as a hard copy, as a site plan that's been provided as part of the packet that shows the details of the drainage design, which is the drainage plan, civil plan number 3 in the packet. I don't unfortunately have that as a PDF that I can show you on the screen.
Okay, I'll take a look offline. Windows. Our scope is to consider the detrimental effect or not on the neighborhood. This is not, for me, a matter of aesthetic choice. It is a matter of neighborhood character in a non-malign sense. And if you look at the homes that make people excited, the buildings that make people excited to preserve them, you find that they have lots of glazing on all 4 sides. And you look at the homes that people think of as intrusive and out of place and ruining the character. One of the things that distinguishes them is large blocks of unglazed side. And I think it is a big mistake to remove windows, as this proposal has. Over time, we will look back on this and go, and the neighbors too, will look back on this and say, you know, now I'm just looking at a blank wall. Glazing makes a home more homey. So I think that's just the wrong direction. Lot area minimums, I don't think we should have them in the zoning code. They provide a perverse incentive for fewer larger units rather than more smaller units. So it's just a way to create more expensive homes. So I am delighted. I will be happy to vote in favor of providing that relief. So lastly, I think, you know, what we have to do is we have to look at the trade-offs we have before us. It would be lovely if our multi-residence zoning, and I have part of an effort to change it, it would be lovely if our multi-residence zoning provided a sufficient incentive to prevent teardowns in a situation like this, where the incentive was such that by right, you could build more homes if you preserve the existing building. That makes a lot of sense, 100% in favor of that. But that is not the trade-off we have before us. The trade-off we have before us is between this project, which is thoughtfully designed to blend into the neighborhood, to look like a single-family home, to create smaller sized homes. The alternative here is not adaptive reuse. The alternative here is not a home that is the same size as the existing home. The alternative is what would be built here by right that meets our current market conditions, which would be enormous and far less attractive and would be much more intrusive. And I believe that the now adult child of the couple who are on vacation would be more horrified by what's available by right than this project. So it would be great if it was economically feasible just to rehab this home, but there's development potential here, and we can go one of two ways, by right or this. And it is a choice that Mr. Lee is not imposing on us. It is a choice that our zoning provides. That is the trade-off, not the trade-off between this and something we would prefer, but our zoning doesn't currently allow or promote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roach. Next, we'll go to Councilor Farrell, followed by Leary, and then Councilor Albright. I will definitely get to you as you're another councilor from this ward. Councilor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I'd like to say is that I wanted to thank the Pikes and neighbors who invited me to come and speak with them a while ago. I appreciated having that special opportunity to listen to them and their concerns. Let me say at the beginning, I like this project. I can't speak as knowledgeably nor as eloquently as my colleague, Councilor Roach, but he mentioned much of what appeals to me, although the transformer and the glazed windows, I'd like more information about that. But the fact, yes, 4 units, but the design of this structure is so in keeping with the neighborhood that I think in the long term, not only will it benefit existing homes, but I hope it might encourage any future developers to look at something other than the cookie cutter homes that we get in many by right situations. I also and specifically agree that the zoning of this, we're dealing with zoning as it exists. I too would like to see zoning that encourages the restoration of existing homes. We don't have that, and I do think that that is part of our charge as a city council to begin to look at that. But with what we have, these are 4 moderately sized units. And I think that that is very appropriate. I think if we were to dismiss this and allow the developer to move to something that will in fact recoup their costs, regardless of whether we're responsible for them being able to recoup their costs, that the neighborhood will be very unhappy with what they see in the end. It will bear, in my opinion, little resemblance to what exists. And I can show many examples of that if folks would like to come on over to Ward 8 and see what's happening. So more shortly, and I'm sorry for the long, I like this project. I know it's larger in the number of units that neighbors would like to have, but I think they're reasonably sized units, which in fact will make them slightly more affordable to some families who are looking for housing. And I hope we can get by the 2 or 3 issues that are still outstanding to make this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. I'm just going to welcome and note that we've been joined by City Council President John Oliver on Zoom. Councillor Leary and then Councillor Albright.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Listening to my fellow councilors, Roach and Farrell, I share many of their thoughts as well. I have been concerned about the by right option, and I just wanted to clarify, Attorney Lee, the setbacks, particularly abutting the neighbor number 68. How close would a by right project get to it? Is that also the 7.5 feet that you mentioned?
Correct.
And currently, you would be 15 feet away?
15 on the southerly side and 10 feet on the northerly side.
Which side is 68 on, the southerly or the northerly?
68. You guys on the south? Yep. It would be the 15 feet.
It would be the 15
for
feet.
our neighbors. Yep.
So it would be twice as far away as a by right project.
Correct.
Okay. I also like this project. I think it's a very thoughtful design. I think they did a good job coming back to us with important changes. I also prefer actually 4 smaller units than 3 or 2 ginormous units. The affordability is part of it, but we also, as I think we all know, have a serious crisis in housing. So I would actually rather see more smaller units. I'm glad you brought up, design review and historic review. I think people sometimes don't always remember that there's many other levels of review besides land use. And when it comes to us, that's already been vetted in a lot of ways. So we do have broad discretion on these things. I think change is difficult. I come from someone who lives on a street where I've had 11 knockdowns. Some of them have been actually much improved, and it's still a nice street to live on. But change is difficult, and I understand that. But I actually think the neighbors would be much happier with this very thoughtful, well-done design, rather than what will eventually would happen is the by right project, no question about it. The only thing I was going to say about the project was I noticed that it had a lot more impervious area, and if there was any way to use more pervious materials to reduce that. That's just one comment that I had. I think the transformer thing, I'll let my Councilor Roach go after that one because I'm really not sure about it. It's sort of something new to think about. So that's all I'll say about it right now, but as again, I do like the project and I would support it.
Mr. Lee, do you want to say anything to the impervious question?
Yes, so the area that's immediately in front of the proposed transformer location within the driveway, we are willing to install pervious material. The rest of the driveway, we will remain unchanged. I do want to address slightly the transformer. Councilor Roach and I have been involved in a matter that we've deep dive into transformer specs, and I think it's sort of a chicken and the egg type of thing where we may not know what Eversource may tell us to do or what location on the site until we get to the building permit level, so which is months ahead of time if this were to be granted. So the answer that you may be seeking may not be readily available even on second call.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I'm going to go now to our fellow councilors who have their hands raised. Councilor Albright, thank you for your patience, and then I'll go to President Oliver after Councilor Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a question first. The 9-foot retaining wall, that goes down, that's for the garage going down?
That is correct. It's actually it's terraced, so it's a
Okay.
cumulative number.
Okay, that's great. That's what I wanted to be sure about that. And the unit size is what, roughly 2,000 per unit now?
Try to get those numbers for you.
I actually,
Oh, thank you,
I could jump
Sandra.
in if you'd like, Attorney Lee.
Thank you.
I just have them in front of me. So for Unit 1, the living floor area is 2,322 square feet. For Unit 2, it's 2,601 square feet. And for Unit 3, it's 2,188 square feet. And Unit 4 is just over 2,000 square feet.
Thank you very much. So one of the problems with our zoning ordinance for MR zone is that the lot area per unit right now is 5,000 square feet. And so that's why, that's one of the items that you're asking for relief on. Am I correct about that, Mr. Lee?
Yep, it's 4,000 per square foot in the single-family attached dwellings.
Okay, so 4,000.
Yep.
So, but still, if I don't think people understand that if the by right alternative is 4 or 5,000 square feet, you're going to get, and if you have 2 units, you're going to get an 8 or 9,000 square foot two unit home. And one of these McMansions that we see going up all over the city, the white, blocky, square-like, big, giant things, and that would be a mistake for this particular neighborhood, which is such a beautiful neighborhood. So a bunch of us do have a docket item before the Zoning and Planning Committee to take a hard look at our MR zones and how they describe what's supposed to happen and whether or not they are incentivizing tear downs. Not at the kind of tear down that we're getting here, but the tear down that brings a house down and puts up houses to the max. They max out the square footage to the setbacks and to the allowed lot area per unit. And we get these horrible, gigantic things. So we're trying to look at our MR zoning and our single family zoning to find ways to incentivize doing exactly what this particular developer is trying to do, which is to create a home that looks and resembles the neighborhood, but adds more units so that it provides more places for people to live in a reasonable in a reasonable sized home. I'm assuming these will be for sale.
Correct.
So they're not going. I'm sure they're not going to be cheap, but they'll be certainly cheaper than less expensive. Let's say it that way, than many of the new homes that are going up now. So I really like this project. I think it's good for the neighborhood, especially as compared to the by right alternative. And I think we've had too many examples recently for folks who have not liked the by right, have not liked the project that comes before the city council's land use committee, and they reject it, and the by right alternative goes up and everybody is aghast. And so I think you have to be careful what you wish for, because I really don't think you're going to be happy with it. So as one of the, another member of the Ward 2 constituency, I know this may not make my Ward 2 constituents very happy for me to say that I like this project, but I do like the project, and I do think it will be better for you in the long run than the by right alternative. I'm sure you will not like the by right alternative. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Albright. President Oliver.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if you want to entertain this or not. However, I just got a message from Councilor Wright, who is unable to raise her electronic hand. And I wondered if maybe you might want to just call on her and I'll go after her.
Well, I'll call on her after you, because I saw
or
your
you
hand
could do
up
it that
first.
way.
Yeah, go ahead.
That works as well, thank you.
Councilor Wright, you'll be next.
I do think I've heard a lot of good comments regarding the project. I believe this project has been before this committee a couple of times already. I've certainly read a lot of constituent letters, abutter letters about this project. This does seem to me to fit squarely into that space where I think most of us would acknowledge we don't really like the way that our zoning is, or where our zoning is leading developers in this city. I particularly cannot stand comments that we hear all the time about, oh, and the by right option's even uglier, and our architect is actually going to make sure of that, or whatever. I just heard Attorney Lee say. It was slightly different than that, but that was the between the lines as far as what I was hearing. But I am curious, are we raising the grade on this project? Or is it kind of on that kind of an incline today?
The grade is naturally sloped upwards from the street.
And are we raising the grade?
No. There'll be grade changes, but we're not raising the grade. If you're referring to any use of retaining walls refer to the driving into the garage on the first level.
I'm acutely aware. Thank you. So if we're not raising the grade, I am just kind of curious, why do we need to exceed the total height by 1.5 feet or 1 foot and a piece, a little bit, or inches or what have you? I think it was maybe 1 foot and a couple of inches. That's a rhetorical question. I do think that I'll channel some of what I've heard from a few other counselors. I do think changes are coming to zoning because I would certainly like to address some of the challenges we see in MR. One of the challenges that I personally think we need to tackle is adaptive reuse outside of MRT. Adaptive reuse is not a unique term to MRT. I think that retaining structures that exist, especially in neighborhoods like this, where a lot of the structures are incredibly viable, they do not need to be torn down until or unless someone wants to do this kind of a project. This is the case for me where I'm not a huge fan of the alternative that's in front of us, to the point where I probably would not be able to support it when it came to full committee or full council. Just looking at the property here, like I understand what could be built by right, and I don't like that. And I don't like this either. I think both alternatives are detrimental to the overall neighborhood. I think we need to find a way to incentivize adaptive reuse of the existing structure. I too love the idea of smaller units, as well as maintaining the current structure with some minor modifications as needed to accommodate the adaptive reuse. But I do appreciate the time to chime in. And again, thanks for all the hard work, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, President Oliver. Councilor Wright, followed by Councilor Farrell. Not hearing you clearly, Councilor Wright. Try speaking.
Okay.
No. Breaking up. I'm not sure if this is going to work.
Better?
Try again.
Is this any better?
Say a full sentence, please.
Better?
It sounds better. Haven't heard a whole sentence, though, yet. Don't hear anything. I'm going to move on to Councilor Maliki and see if it's possible for you to get on with a different phone or something. Would like to hear from you, but we're not hearing from you. Councilor Maliki. Oh, sorry. Then I'll come back to you, Councilor Farrell, but I noticed.
I think Councilor Farrell was ahead of me, so you can take him first.
He's letting you go next. He's waving at me. I can see him.
Let's see, a couple of comments, couple of questions. For Attorney Lee, if I understand correctly, is the only place the grade is changing is where the driveway is going to be?
I cannot state that that is the only place, because when you prepare a site, grades do change overall. So I want to be very accurate. I think if you're asking about grades overall, the grade at the street is lower, and it's naturally slopes upwards as you head towards the house from the street.
Right, I understand that. I guess what I'm having trouble figuring out, since there is not a tree permit folder yet, is I would ideally like to see kind of any potential grade changes overlaid on where the trees that are supposed to remain are located.
Let me ask Ms. Berman if there is a grading and drainage plan in your packet. Do you have access to that, Ms. Berman?
I do. I'll be happy to share my screen. The first page in the civil plan set does show the average grade, and I can proceed down to also show the topography plan.
Thank you.
So just bear with me as I
Yeah,
pull
I'm
that
in
up.
Riga right now, but it's hard to find what I'm looking for.
She's pulling it up if you have access to your visuals here.
Yeah, I'm not. I apologize. This is just, it's not coming up in me. Oh, here it is, right in front of me. I apologize. Okay, so hopefully you're able to see my screen. Here we have the first plan in the plan set, which shows the average grade calculation here. So for building 1, it shows here that this is the original grade, which is 70.79.
I'm sorry, could you zoom in? I can't read anything.
Sure, absolutely. Bear with me just a moment. Let me try and zoom in here. All right, is that a little bit better? And I'll pull this down so we can see again. Are you able to see the calculations here on your screen?
Yeah, I can see calculations. My question wasn't so much about average grade as about what's happening around the trees that are supposed to be preserved on the site. And I can't quite figure out, I see some X's of trees crossed out on one of the site plan diagrams, but I don't know I can't tell the sizes of the trees that are remaining.
So here we have
There
the
you go.
layout and topography plan. There are trees that are pictured here that you can see where they intersect with the grade, and this is a proposed site plan. I'm not sure if this speaks to the level of detail that you're looking for, especially if there will be other requirements associated with the tree permit that they'll have to show. But this plan, which is the, I believe, layout and topography, would likely be the closest to what you're looking for in terms of grade changes. The dotted lines here show when there is a foot grade change proposed. And I'm happy to scroll up to the rear of the lot if you'd like to see the rear as well.
So it looks like so the dark dashed lines are the new grades, and the pale solid lines are the existing grades. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so it looks like changes are anticipated. I'm just concerned that trees that are supposed to be preserved are going to have the grade changed around them, whether it's lower, which you can't really do because you'll cut the roots, or higher, which you shouldn't do because you're smothering the roots, that those trees aren't really going to survive long term. I also wanted to make sure that the applicant knows that we're now stricter about what we count as replacement inches, and arborvitae and the like planted in hedge formation are no longer counting as replacement inches. So I don't know if that has been factored into the plan to replace all inches on site. I mean, they're obviously fine to put in as screening for, both parties, but they won't necessarily count as replacement inches unless you happen to be removing a bunch of trees in hedge formation. I did have a comment on the sort of the perspective view where you see that wooden wall around the transformer. I think transformers are something that can potentially catch fire. So I think it would be both more attractive and perhaps safer if the wall screening the transformer were made of stone to match whatever the side of the driveway wall is going to be. And then on the view of the rear, the fourth unit, fourth unit in the back, I find that very overbearing. It looks like a whole huge house, and I think it's because of those large shed dormers. I don't know if they're even actually dormers or if they're sort of it's basically just a full second floor with a sort of A-frame type thing to make it look like it's not so big, but I don't think that's working. And I think it would look a lot more subservient to the main building if you got rid of those dormers. I also think it's, I'm kind of puzzled at why something that was supposed to be getting smaller, we're ending up with more square footage in the buildings and having all that hardscape appear where it might count as open space, but it's not green space, and it's I don't see that as a necessary addition. So those are my comments. I have reservations about this.
Thank you, Councillor Maliki. Councillor Wright, do you want to give it another try? Oh, you sent them to Councillor Lucas. He is going to read your comments. Councillor Lucas, and then we will come back to you. Councillor Farrell, although I will say that Councillor Irish has raised her hand, so I'm going to let somebody speak who hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll come back to you. But do proceed, please, with Councillor Wright's comments.
From Councillor Wright. Max by right is 7,376 square feet or 3,688 square feet for 2 units. 3 units need a special permit. With 60% facade ratio, one side can be small, I think 7.5 inches, but need 39.2 feet total. This is setbacks on the side. I would prefer less relief, like only 3 units and very near the FAR, and not build in setbacks. I like underground parking. Disappointed cannot keep house in the middle of similar homes, but that ship has sailed. We allow more density in MRT. That's all. Just want to say it for the record.
Thank you, Councillor Wright and Lucas. Councillor Irish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not going to repeat any of the comments. That there are lots of thoughtful comments from my colleagues. And just 3 points I want to make to underscore what was said. The project, the design is very nice. We've all, I think, agreed on that. It fits into the neighborhood. Second, happy that the petitioner came back with some meaningful changes. That was good to see. Just disappointed that the loss of the space for the neighbor on the right, the loss of buffer space, and it just doesn't feel, while it's might not affect the neighborhood, it does affect a neighbor, and it just doesn't feel very neighborly. And I'm just curious, as this was a concern, it sounds like from the community meeting, that this wasn't addressed, and why that building closer to the setbacks was the choice. So was disappointed to see that. This is a difficult thing to sort of on the fence about this one for a number of reasons from everything that's been raised. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irish. Councillor Farrell, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like for myself to be really clear to the neighbors and to everyone else that when I say by right will lead to something probably unappealing, that's experiential. I don't think, from when driving around this city, that a lot of the by right development has anywhere near the kinds of sensitivity in architecture that this particular building does. I just want to be really clear that we're not threatening anybody by saying, if you don't do this, you're going to get something really horrible. Because I don't think the architect is going to build something that will ruin his or her reputation. But it definitely will be larger and very different, and in my opinion, nowhere near as sensitive to the neighborhood as something like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. I'm going to go back, because I promised I would, to anyone from the public who has had their hand raised. I'm going to start with asking if Mary Lee Belleville did want to speak. I saw your hand up earlier. I don't see it up now. Ms. Belleville, do you want to speak? Your hand is up. Go ahead. And then I'm going to go to Rebecca Carroll after Ms. Belleville. Go ahead, Ms. Belleville.
Thank you. I appreciate you circling back to me, but I think all of my comments have been covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rebecca Carroll, we have not heard from you yet. You are muted, I believe, Ms. Carroll. Oh, she's unmuted. Okay. Oh, that's just no video. Ms. Carroll, do you want to ask questions or make a comment? No? Okay. Councillor Lucas, you had your hand up. Was that just to speak on behalf of Councillor Wright? Okay. I think everyone has spoken at least once. Councillor Roach.
I too would like to follow up on Councillor Farrell's point. It's not an intuition that he has about these buildings. There are studies that say that the price you get for what is colloquially called farmhouse modern is about 10% higher than other styles. This big, predominantly white, black framed windows, steep gables frequently. What you will get instead here is not anybody wishing bad on the neighborhood. It is what the market is demanding and smart developers are building, not because they like it, but because they want to make the most money possible. So the design that we're seeing, which is more consistent with the neighborhood, is a compromise in order to get the relief they're requesting. So we're going to get what we get, which is a function of the market and the zoning rules that we have. It's not a threat, which is not to say that the concerns of the neighbors are not well-founded. As Councilor Leary said, things are changing and change is not easy. But again, it's the trade-off. Which change would you prefer? And I think that the neighborhood will be much better off with this project than its alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to speak who would like to? I'm just going to say a few words on the record about all this. I have heard from the neighbors, and I'm concerned. I'm sorry that they don't feel that their needs have been met specifically here in terms of setback and appearance. But I do think that this petitioner has made a lot of changes that we've asked for, including addressing the setbacks, including separating the buildings, including increasing the open space while making the unit sizes and the total floor plan smaller. I hear Councillor Malaki's concerns about the trees as I look at that site plan, but we know that there is a tree ordinance and that will have to be addressed at a later point. That's not something that we have control over specifically here in the Land Use Committee. I didn't hear the petitioner the same way President Oliver did. I didn't hear them say, our architect will be sure to design something really hideous next time if you don't approve this. I didn't hear it that way. I too, like I think everyone who's spoken about it, thinks that the design of this building is very handsome and does actually visually look like it fits into the neighborhoods, even though the neighborhood, which is a lovely neighborhood, even though there are more units in it than there would be in two families or 2 one-families or whatever. I agree with Councillor Farrell very much, and it's been echoed by Councillor Albright and Councillor Roach and others, that I think that the question here is, what is the trade-off and what will happen instead? We don't get to control the marketplace, and I do think that the by right option is far less desirable for everybody, actually. I mean, maybe the developer might like that because it might be an easier build and they'll make more money on 2 huge units, but I don't think that is something we want for this community. I don't want that for this community or for this neighborhood. So I will, despite I know some neighbors who are unhappy, I will be voting in favor of this. But we do need a motion to close the public hearing. Actually, let me go back and see if Rebecca Carroll is able to speak at this time. I don't want to cut you off, Ms. Carroll, if you are able to get your comments out in this public hearing. I'm going to give it a few.
Thank you. I think I fixed my mic. Thank you. I'm Rebecca Carroll. I live at 52 Brookside, which is the northern neighbor to the 60 Brookside property. And I appreciate the discussion tonight. I just want to note in the reduction of space, you know, what they did was add giant dormers, which one of the counselors pointed out, which has increased the massing on the 3rd floor quite a bit, which is what has led to the increase in total floor area ratio, even though technically they shrunk the space. And I understand the thoughtfulness about the by right system, and I do appreciate the developer addressing our concerns about the lack of privacy in our backyard that the massing was going to create. But I really would just like to request that the council does look at fixing zoning laws so that the option for neighbors isn't bad, but can be actually a good solution that would work for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. I think we do all share that desire too. And that is a different committee than this one. We get the tail end. We're the wagging of the tail that the Zoning and Planning Committee creates. But we have heard from members of that committee tonight that they're trying to work on that. In the meantime, we need to deal with what's before us. Are there any other comments? Councillor Lucas, do you want to make a motion? Okay. Would anyone else like to make a motion? Councillor Farrell, go ahead. Microphone, yes, thanks.
Let me try to do this.
First, we would want to close the public hearing.
I'd like to move that we close the public hearing.
Okay, we can just vote on that and then you can make the next one. All in favor of
Madam Chair, I'd like a roll call on the close the public hearing, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll take a roll call vote on, so that means some people don't want to close the public hearing. We'll do that. Thank you, Councillor Block.
Okay. Councillor Block?
No.
Councillor Farrell?
Aye.
Councillor Irish?
Aye.
Councillor Leary?
Aye.
Councillor Lucas?
No.
Councillor Roach?
Aye.
Councillor Kelly?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-2.
Thank you, everyone. We're certainly able to keep track of that kind of a vote. Councillor Farrell, another motion you'd like to make?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move to approve this with the condition that we get some answers about the transformer, if it's at all possible, before this goes to the next council hearing, and this issue of the windows, which I didn't know.
No.
Okay,
The
fine.
condition,
Just hopefully get some information about the transformer before this goes to a final vote or second call.
Either
Does
Ms.
that make any sense?
friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Just 1 second, please.
Yeah.
I would be happy to take some input from Ms. Berman or Mr. Temple on this. It's my understanding that the utility company has has the final okay on this, and this is unlikely to happen before we meet again. Is that correct, Ms. Berman or Mr. Temple? I don't want to hold this up waiting for the utility company to weigh in on the transformer. There can be a condition about what we do depending on what happens with the transformer, but I'm thinking that that doesn't make sense. So could you respond to that, Ms. Berman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My understanding is that the location of the transformer is subject to the utility company's review for safety and location, and I think that those determinations may very well not be made prior to the next city council. I don't know if Attorney Lee wants to acknowledge. I believe he mentioned that as well in his comments to the council, but I also welcome Attorney Temple's comments as well.
Mr. Temple, do you have anything to say about this? If you're still here?
I have nothing really to add other than what Sandria said. We don't usually have this information at this stage with these permits. If it turns out that the transformer is in a place that will require additional relief, then the project may have to come back for an amendment.
That's what I would recommend, and we're going to see that on another petition tonight too. We're going to be seeing these transformers on units that are more than 1 and 2 family. Those are the kinds of structures that are going to need transformers, and it does rely on the utility company approval, usually at a later date. But as Mr. Temple says, if it may come back for an amendment depending on what the location and the point was raised around the fencing or screening around it. So would you like to make a specific motion that maybe doesn't include the transformer part?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move that we approve this project.
Thank you, Councilor Farrell. Before we vote on that, Councilor Roach?
Yes, so my specific request is that the petitioner provide proof of compliance with the written existing guidelines. I know that the utility, ultimately, the placement of the transformer is subject to utility review. However, there are known guidelines, and I just want to know that those guidelines, that the transformer placement complies with those guidelines so that we have less likelihood for surprise and change. And I'm most concerned about the fence, given that the fence can be no closer than 5 feet to 3 of the sides, and I believe 7 or 10 feet from the door side. So that's my concern. So that is what I would make it. So my friendly amendment to propose was going to be that we make it subject to second call with evidence of compliance with the guidelines, which are available.
I believe that that can be written into the conditions. We could still do it on second call. Ms. Berman and Mr. Temple, do you understand the nature of the suggestion from Councilor Roach, and is that something that could be written into our conditions?
I do not understand that because I'm not familiar with what guidelines Councilor Roach is referring to.
I would also add that we don't have any control over the utility company's timeline if we were to have to receive a letter of compliance or anything along those lines. We're not able to dictate that. So this may inhibit the petitioner from being able to get the information to the council prior to a city council meeting.
I'm not suggesting an official letter of compliance, merely that the petitioner provide us with the guidelines which are available. Again, Mr. Lee and others have been deep in this. Mr. Lee and our attorney Lee have been deep in this. There are published guidelines, and I just want a representation from the petitioner that the transformer is within those published guidelines would be sufficient for me.
Mr. Lawrence Lee, is this something you think you could get your hands on for us?
I think I understand what Councilor Roach is referring to. There are published guidelines for certain types of transformers. Maybe what we can do is, I'll talk with my client to see, and I think you're not looking for a response from Eversource or from a utility company, but you're looking for whether what is being proposed meets at least the clearance and dimensional guidelines that's published.
Correct.
Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, I think we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you. I know that seems vague, but this is the conversation we're going to be having with every one of these transformers. It is not a completely amorphous blob out there, and we're waiting to weigh in. There are published guidelines.
I understand, and we're going to face it on 83 Lexington Street this evening. So it's an important topic. It's a new topic for us to be learning about, so thank you. Okay, Councilor Farrell has made a motion. Could we look at the findings and conditions?
I'll go ahead and pull up my screen, show the draft order. Hopefully everyone here is able to see my screen. So we have here the draft order for 60 Brookside. And again, to allow 4 single-family attached dwellings in 2 buildings with relief to reduce the side setbacks to a lot area per unit to allow parking within the retaining walls over 4 feet in height. The findings we have here under item 1, that the site is an appropriate location for the proposed attached single-family dwellings in 2 buildings, as the buildings are set back from the street, will be under the maximum height allowed by right and will reduce the amount of surface parking by including below-grade parking. The proposed attached single-family dwellings, as adversely affect the neighborhood, as the building's offset design and variability in elevation reduces the appearance of massing. That the proposed attached single-family dwellings will not create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, as the driveway will remain in a similar location and the curb cut will be reduced in size to 13.3 feet. Under item 4, that access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. Under item 5, that literal compliance with the city's parking regulations is impracticable due to the size, shape, and topography of the lot, which limits options for dimensionally compliant surface level parking stalls. Under item 6, that literal compliance with the dimensional standards for the side setbacks and minimum lot area per unit is impracticable due to the shape and topography of the lot relative to the number of units proposed, limiting the size and location of each building. Under item 7, that the lot presents challenging topography at the front of the site, which limits use of the property such that it could not be improved without the implementation of a series of retaining walls over 4 feet in height to provide driveway access to the below-grade garage. Under item 8, that the proposed series of retaining walls over 4 feet in height will not adversely impact adjacent property, the neighborhood, or the public, as the retaining walls are interior to the lot and allow for the creation of a driveway to access the below-grade garage. And finally, under item 9, that the proposed series of retaining walls over 4 feet in height is the minimum structure necessary to allow subject property to be reasonably utilized, as the significant change in grade requires retaining walls to provide increased utilization and accessibility of the site. Scroll down through here. And here we have the petition number, we have the petitioner's information, we have the location of the site, the owner, the address of the owner, that it will be used for 4 single-family attached dwellings in 2 buildings. Again, here with the relief granted listed out, and that there is in a multi-residence 1 district. And here we have under item 1 that the standard plan referencing condition for the site plan, architectural plans, as well as the landscaping plan. Under item 2, we have the standard operation and maintenance plan condition. Under item 3, the standard pest and rodent mediation condition. Under item 4, we have the construction management plan. Under item 5, scroll through here, we have the standard building permit condition. Under item 6, we have our standard final inspection certificate of occupancy condition. And item 7, we have our standard landscaping condition. And under item 8, our standard temporary occupancy condition. I'm happy to scroll back and roll through if anyone would like to revisit any of these conditions or the findings.
Thank you, Ms. Berman. Before we vote, I want us to be very clear about what it is we're voting on. There's a motion to approve subject to second call, before which time we will have received some information, and I'm going to ask our clerk if you have it clear what that information is about the transformer to go into the report. Did you take notes on exactly what it is we're asking for to be provided before second call? Could you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so subject to second call to ensure that they showed that the transformer would meet the published guidelines from the Eversource website.
Is that it, Mr. Roach?
From Eversource, not the website. I don't think it's available on the website.
From Eversource.
From Eversource, yes, thank you.
Is that satisfactory?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's what we're voting on. We'll take a roll call vote on that. Motion to approve, subject to second call, getting that transformer spec information from Eversource. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Bucher.
Counselor Block?
No.
Counselor Farrell?
Aye.
Counselor Irish?
Aye.
Counselor Leary?
Aye.
Counselor Lucas?
No.
Counselor Roach?
Aye.
Counselor Kelly?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-2.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, members of the public who spoke and asked questions. We're going to move on now to the second item, which is number 207-26, a request to exceed FAR and to allow a detached ADU with reduced setbacks and oversized dormers at 2 Rowe Street. First, we will hear from planning, and I believe that a new plan is in the works, so I don't think we're going to spend very much time talking about this tonight because we're going to hold it. Is that correct, you think, Ms. Berman?
That is correct, Madam Chair. I will go ahead and share my screen with a very, very brief presentation, and I will turn it over to the petitioner to explain why.
Briefly. We don't need to spend much time on this if a whole revised plan is coming back before us later, but please do what you would like to do now.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I think it's important just to note that this petition is to construct a detached accessory building with a 2-car garage and an ADU above, and requiring relief to exceed FAR, reduce side and rear setbacks for the detached ADU, and to allow oversized dormers within 3 feet of a wall plane intersection. I think just a quick description of the site, as this will likely not this will be included in their petition, that the subject property consists of an irregular shaped 7,570 square foot lot that is improved with a 2.5-story single family residence that was constructed circa 1880. The topography of the site is primarily level, and it is located in a single residence 3 zone in the Auburndale neighborhood, just north of Route 90, which is the Mass Pike. And the surrounding neighborhood is also zoned single residence 3 and largely consists of single and 2-family residential uses. The zoning relief requested here, again, you have it here, but the petitioner has requested to continue this hearing to a subsequent meeting of the Land Use Committee to allow additional time for revisions to their proposed site and architectural plans due to the building code requirement for 2 means of doorway egress for an ADU. Given the project's current design with the close proximity to the rear and side lot lines and to the principal dwelling, planning does recommend that the committee defer specific relief and site plan discussions until those revised plans have been submitted to us. Over my screen, back to you, Madam Chair, and to the petitioner to discuss more.
Thank you very much, Ms. Berman. I believe, is it Katrina Mello, is that the architect who's going to speak briefly to this?
Yes.
Good evening.
Hello, we see and hear you. Just give us your name and address, please.
Yes, Karina Mello. Thank you everyone for your time here in our case today. I'm here with Sam Cashmore. We are the architects for this project located at 2 Rowe Street. I'll go ahead and share my screen to give you a brief description of the project.
Could I just stop you for 1 second, though? I don't think we want to spend very much time on a plan that's going to be revised. I would rather we not spend time reviewing that if it's just coming back, and we'll do it at a later time. Is there kind of a brief overview you would like to give us of things of it that will not be changing?
So the reason why we are thinking that we may need to come back is because
the 2 means of egress from the ADU.
Correct.
Right? The council, yes, our planner just explained that to us.
Correct. So based on conversation with the plan examiner, there's not many options we have with this odd shape lot. So the solution that we're looking into is creating that access or second egress door from the garage door itself.
So pretty much a walk-through door integrated with it. So that wouldn't change much the footprint of the unit or the reliefs required. It would mostly just change the curb appeal of the garage elevation itself by just having that door being integrated into that, if that gets approved by the commissioner.
When you first submitted this application, were you not aware that there was a requirement for 2 means of egress from an ADU?
We did not. We did admit that that was a requirement.
Okay. So you, on behalf of the petitioner, is requesting that we hold this to give you time to redesign to provide the 2 means of egress. Correct?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
You, on behalf of the petitioner, is requesting that the Land Use Committee hold this to give you more time to design to provide for the 2 means of egress from the ADU.
Yes, I have Sam Kashmar trying to speak to that. Is it possible for him to get on mute?
Mr. Chairman, we do have 2 means of egress located in the ADU currently. The IRC requests 2 means of egress, one being a stair egress, one being an egress window, especially for smaller ADUs. Massachusetts has an amendment, 311.2, that can, per a city or town's purview, decide to add for a second means of stair egress. In this particular case, we didn't view this as something that would make sense to have a second means of stair egress. One, considering the oddity of the lot. 2, considering the size of the space of the ADU. The ADU is under 500 square feet, and so to try to put 2 stairways on a second floor unit that go down within a singular space, especially given the tightness of the urban lot that this exists in, doesn't seem to make sense to us. Thus, the reason we pursued egress windows per Massachusetts and IRC state law.
Could you repeat your name for us? And
Sam Kachmar, founding principal of Sam Kachmar Architects.
could you spell your last name, please?
Kachmar.
Thank you. Ms. Berman and Mr. Temple, what do you have to say about this?
I would just add that this is a building requirement from the building department. So this isn't something that pertains to the city zoning, but it does pertain to our building permit requirements. My understanding is that Ms. Mello did speak with a member of our building department staff, and that a requirement was conveyed to her where the design change would need to be made. If there have been other conversations that have occurred with our building inspectors where a new proposed design would be compliant, that would be something that the building department would need to approve, but we haven't seen or been able to vet any revised plans on our end in our department for
The
planning.
requirements are all viable via the IRC, the International Residential Code. It comes under the purview of each city and town, which thus brings us to the zoning board here in terms of requesting the variance and special permit that we're here for.
It is beyond our capacity as a land use committee to mediate this disagreement between the architect, the planning department, the ISD commissioner, and perhaps the law department. To me, it seems that this is not resolved, and I think that we will have to hold it and have you settle this in the meantime and come back. We don't have the capacity to iron this out on the floor of a public hearing.
Certainly, I think the argument is that this falls under IRC 311.2, which is the requirement of 2 means of egress. Those can be quantified as either an egress window or a stair with a door, and we meet both of those requirements in this.
Okay, Mr. Kachmar, what I'm going to suggest is that you convince the planning department, or more importantly, the ISD commissioner of this argument, and when you come back to us, we'll have agreement between you and the inspectional services department on that. Again, it's beyond our capacity. Excuse me, I'm talking.
Yep.
It is beyond our capacity to mediate that disagreement. So I think we're going to move to hold this. Councilor Block, would you like to make a motion? This is in your ward.
Yes, this is in my ward, and yes, I would like to make a motion. If it's okay with the chair, could I say something about this before I
Absolutely.
make the motion?
Yes.
I visited this property today and happened to meet one of the abutters, Katerina Plati, I believe her last name is. She lives at 42 Prairie Avenue. English is not her first language. She asked me to relay to this body that she has no problem with the garage. It's the living quarters above the garage because it looks, because the grade change between her property and this property is pretty steep. It's maybe 3 or 4 feet just by my visual estimation. And she is very unhappy with the privacy intrusion that she believes will result from this. I'm just reporting this to both this committee as well as the petitioner, and I'll just leave it at that, and I would move to hold this item.
Thank you. And I will say to the petitioner and the petitioner's architects that we would be asking you at our next conversation if you had reached out to neighbors and abutters and what they have to say. And so we've heard a report from one tonight, and that will be another important part of coming back to us. So we will keep the public hearing open, and we will vote on holding this item tonight.
And Ms. Chairman, we have submitted letters of support from also alternative abutters.
Terrific.
Yep.
Did you submit that to the planning department along with your petition? Yes, great. That will be helpful. I appreciate it. Okay, let's vote on holding this item. All in favor? I think we can do this on a voice vote, correct? All in favor of hold, please say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed to that? Is anyone abstaining? We will see you at a future meeting.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, our final item, boy, I feel like a real tough cookie tonight, is number 208-26, which is a request to allow 5 attached single-family dwellings in 2 buildings with associated dimensional and parking relief, including reduced open space, reduced lot area, reduced side setbacks, and parking within the front and side setbacks of Lexington Street. This is the first time this item has been before us. They're asking for a lot of relief. I don't think it's going out on a limb to say this one will probably be held tonight too. First, we're going to hear from Mr. Lamel from the Planning Department, and then we'll hear from the petitioner. Mr. Lamel.
It's Mr. Melcher.
Melcher, oh,
Yeah.
You know, it's the L-E-M.
It's a habit. It's a habit thing.
It has, I've done that before. I'm so sorry, Mr. Melcher.
No worries. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll
The
go ahead and pull
MEL.
up the planning presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for correcting me.
Okay. Good evening, Zach Melcher, Planning Associate for the City of Newton, presenting petition number 208-26 for 83 Lexington Street, which is a special permit to raise the existing dwelling and construct 5 single-family attached dwellings in 2 new buildings with parking and dimensional relief. The property is located in the Multi-Residence 2 district, improved with a single-family dwelling constructed in 1951 and converted into a 2-family dwelling in 1973. The neighborhood contains a variety of residential and business uses, and the property abuts a business use 2 district. The existing site contains a garage, a shed, and a concrete patio in the rear. And there is an existing 6.4-foot retaining wall on the property, which, if altered or rebuilt, will require additional relief. The petitioner is requesting special permit relief for 13 items in total related to dimensions and parking. I'm not going to read through all of them here, but the next few slides will cover all of the zoning requirements in detail. In relation to the site, the petitioner is proposing to raise the existing 2-family dwelling and construct 5 single-family attached dwellings in 2 buildings, and special permit relief is required for the single-family attached use. The lot itself is 11,475 square feet, where 15,000 square feet is the minimum required. The lot area per unit is 2,295 square feet, where 4,000 square feet per unit is the minimum required. The lot has 67.6 feet of frontage, where 80 feet is the minimum required. The petitioner proposes 45.2% open space, where 50% is the minimum required. Building 1 has a side setback of 7.5 feet, and Building 2 has a side setback of 20.1 and 8.3 feet. And single-family attached dwellings require 25-foot setbacks from each lot line. And on to the parking-related waivers. The petitioner is proposing 10 surface parking stalls for 5 units, meaning the requirement of 2 parking stalls per unit. All 10 of the parking stalls are within the side setback, and the first parking stall is within the front setback and within 5 feet of the street. And a special permit is required to allow parking within the front and side setbacks and within 5 feet of the street. 5 of the 10 parking stalls are within 20 feet of the southern side lot line, and the driveway is within 10 feet of the lot line. And a special permit is required to allow parking within 20 feet of a lot line and to allow a driveway within 10 feet of a side or rear lot line. 6 of the parking stalls are located within 5 feet of a residential dwelling, and a special permit is required to allow outdoor parking stalls within 5 feet of a residence. The parking stall at the corner of Unit 4 and 5 is obstructed by 2 parking stalls and is considered an end stall. And end stalls must have a maneuvering space at the aisle end of at least 5 feet in depth and 9 feet in width. The driveway and at-grade walkway will have a total width of 13 feet. The minimum aisle width for two-way traffic for parallel stalls is 20 feet, requiring a special permit. The proposed curb cut is 12 feet wide, where 20 feet is the minimum required for two-way traffic. And outdoor parking facilities containing more than 5 stalls are required to provide perimeter screening, and the proposed plans do not include adequate screening. For the sake of time, I won't read through the criteria word for word, but this is the standard special permit criteria. And in terms of the analysis, the site is located in an area that is a mix of residential and commercial buildings. The creation of housing units aligns with the city's housing plan and its goals of encouraging sustainable development. The undersized lot and minimum parking requirements for single-family attached dwellings constrain the site layout. The petitioner has provided a turning analysis plan to demonstrate access to each parking stall and the entering and exiting routes. The petitioner may consider reducing the footprint of the dwellings or the amount of paving in order to reach compliance with the minimum open space requirement. And as the chair mentioned, the site plans show a transformer in the setback, which the petitioner is able to waive the setback requirement for single-family attached dwellings, but there needs to be revised site plans submitted that show the setbacks and dimensions for the transformer. And that concludes the presentation for 83 Lexington Street. I will turn it back over to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. As we have asked before, I'll say when there is verbiage and written words about setbacks and widths of driveways and locations of, it is really helpful for the Land Use Committee and for the public to see the images, the plans, the site plans, the elevations of this. It is hard to translate those words into what they really look like. I think we will now ask the petitioner if he can pull all that up, but it would be helpful if planning could do that for us as you go through it, because in a way it's just words without the images to go with it. So I do request that in cases like this, when you're talking a lot about lot area and reduced widths, that there be some visual to help us understand. And I'm seeing nods, by the way, from committee members. So I'm speaking on behalf of the entire committee when I make that request. Mr. Lee, let's see if you can augment the words with some images.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, again, Lawrence Lee, Rosenberg, Freeman, and Lee, offices at 246 Walnut Street. On behalf of the petitioner, thank you again. And if I may share my screen, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'll do try to supplement what Mr. Melcher had provided. What I'll start off with is really an introduction of the neighborhood. So here's a Google image of the area in question. Our property, hopefully you can see my cursor. We're really on the northwesterly side of Lexington Street in the Auburndale intersection of River and Rumford Avenue and Lexington Streets. I think this was a helpful image when I was looking at this property. As you can see, here's Lexington Street. If you can see my cursor, and you can see that north of Lexington Street, there are a lot of apartment buildings, commercial buildings. You see the solar panel farm. You see the City of Newton Recycling Center. The food pantry is opening up a new building over there and some storage facilities. So it is really a commercial, mixed-use, multi-family type housing developments on the northern side of Lexington Street. It's rather hard to see, so I'll do the best I can. So here's a zoomed in version of the location. So this red tag here is our location. To our, if you're standing on the street, it'll be to our right is Mr. Mercuri's properties. He is here actually tonight. And to our left is Mr. Capasso's buildings, which run, there's several of them that he owns. Across the street, there's definitely a lot more residential feel of the neighborhood. And I think the zoning map actually reflects this, so which is the image that you see here. So easterly, southeasterly, you see this yellow orangish color, which is an SR zoning district, single family zoning district. Here in the corners and towards the back, you have more of a business district, and here is an MR2 where we are currently located. So the buildings that are currently there, as well as a lot of the changes in the neighborhood that are happening, reflect those types of developments. Assessor's map for more context in terms of what's currently there. So site information that Mr. Melcher had talked through. The existing house did go through historic review, and it was found not historically significant. And we are looking to propose 5 dwelling units with all required parking on site. Here's just a copy of the letter from the Historical Commission, the determination of not historically significant. Here's an image of the existing property with a wide driveway to the left-hand side. This left side is where Mr. Capasso's apartment building is located. Some images of the neighborhood, again, giving it some context. The top 2 images are buildings to our left and right. Mr. Mercuri's building is on the right-hand side. It's a commercial office building. There is a residential home in between that. Across the street from us currently is a vacant lot. I believe that was also subject to a special permit at the corner, and across the street on River. So there are a lot of things that are happening within this particular intersection currently. Here's a rendering of what we're looking to build. So this is the front facade. There are 2 buildings. So here, the front building will contain 3 units. Behind that, we'll get to some other images that you'll see, is the second building containing 2 dwelling units. All parking will be surface parking, exterior parking. That's one of the reasons why you see some of the waivers that you see in the list on the zoning table that was previously shown to you. Additional renderings, this is the front facade facing on Lexington Street. And this is just an image with proposed building materials to be used for that new building. We did, by the way, our architecture team did go through UDC for their design review. They did receive some positive feedback on the architectural massing and scale of the building, of the proposed buildings. Here's an image of the back building. If you were standing in the back commercial area. And here is a side elevation looking at, if you were standing at the Capasso buildings, to see building number 1 and then building number 2. Additional elevations to help with some visuals and context, and I can come back to any of these images. Here is a rear elevation of building number 1. right side elevation of building number 1. Again, that's the front building towards Lexington Street. Left elevation. And then this is the front elevation of building number 2, with some notations about the types of materials that will be used. And then additional elevations of the rear building number 2. So now we get to sort of the site plan and break down how the setbacks, that may help give you some context. On the left-hand side, we have Lexington Street. There'll be a single driveway where we have parallel parking spaces to our top part of the image here. And there will be parking spaces directly in front of the units, 1 and 2. And then as you approach the back of the building or the property, there are 2 end stalls that Mr. Melcher had mentioned. And then there are 3 parking stalls directly in front or in between buildings 1 and 2. Proposed landscape plan that's being shown here. We can certainly add additional trees as needed and screening. One of the images that's really hard to see currently here is where the proposed transformer is going to be. It's going to be right at the moment, at the front corner. So the right side corner of the property. It's hard to see on this screen, but I'm just trying to circle it with my cursor. Again, as we heard from the prior petition, the final determination, clearance issues, we can discuss all of that as part of the tonight and perhaps into the future. Interior layout floor plans here. We have basements, first and second floor, and then an attic space. So that's what you'll see. And I can come back to any of these slides. I don't need to bore you with these internal details. And then towards the end, it just wraps up the last slide. So hopefully that gives you some context of what we're looking to do. And I'll be happy to share my screen again if you have any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Can you give us a heads up on what are the parts that you think will need more work before coming back to us on? What parts do you imagine tweaking or changing?
I think there were some feedback relating to perhaps the number of trees for replanting, certainly the dimensional requirements and information the planning department will want to see for the proposed transformer. I've had some very, very good discussions with our abutters. I've had discussions with Attorney McCurry and his son. I had conversations with Ms. McGovern, who is also here tonight, and with our neighbors across the street, as well as Mr. Capasso as well. One thing that is important was to maintain the required parking that for the project, and that's what we're presenting tonight, is the required parking be all on the property. And again, I think from the evaluation of the property and the project, this side of Lexington Street tends to be and is developed more of a commercial side, and it really does change once you cross the street, where there's a lot of single-family homes, and I believe there's a few non-conforming 2-family houses that are sprinkled around the street. But those are what I currently anticipate as potential tweaks to the site plan and project.
Thank you for the heads up. Okay, well, the public hearing is open, so let's hear from members of the public. I see Ms. Belville has her hand up.
Thank you. I have a question about the transformer. Why is that always being proposed in the front when it's always desired in the back? Is there some compelling reason to want to put it in the front? I would just love to know that. Also, this seems like almost comes to mind, it's like an accidental residential neighborhood. This screams commercial, and it doesn't strike me as it's kind of in this, aligns with this to squeeze in residential on this lot with all this surface parking just doesn't seem aligned with the city's goals. That's just my initial reactions. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Belville, and I know you've had rather direct experience with a transformer towards the front of the street near where you live in a similar situation. So
Well, I did, but that's a distant memory. I was more thinking about the recent one in Newton Highlands. But as has been pointed out here, this is going to be an ongoing conversation.
For multiple units. Mr. Lee, would you like to answer that question about why the transformer is located close to the street?
I have somewhat limited knowledge in terms of the reasons behind why it is in the front. I would imagine that the utility companies prefer that they be closer to the utility poles that are on the streets. I think there could be other options, but I think it's probably site-specific and project-specific. Density, location of utility poles, equipment availability, and things like that.
Thank you. That's what I've heard also, and I'm sure it is site-specific, but the utility companies tend to like to have direct access to these in case they need it, which is close to the street and close to the utility poles. So we can look more into that. Thank you for the question, Ms. Belville. Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Anyone on Zoom? Anyone in the chamber want to speak to this? Yes? Would you just come on up to the microphone? Sure.
Hi, I'm Brenda McGovern. I live at 11. Hi, can you hear me now? Okay. I'm Brenda McGovern. I live at 11 James Street, which is right around the corner from Lawrence. Is there any chance of going around, you guys speaking first, and then I can speak at the end?
Oh, you know, I think that's an excellent question, and we think about changing format all the time. I'll tell you why I do it this way, is because we really like to hear from the public before we start to talk, to hear the input that you may have had.
Oh, okay.
Rather than the other way around. Sometimes members of the public, neighbors, et cetera, raise questions that spark comments by the committee members. So that's the way we're doing it now.
Well, there's no harm in trying. So anyway, again, I'm Brenda McGovern. I live around the corner from the development, the proposed development. I have to say, I think that it's a beautiful building. I think that for what we've had built down there in that corner of West Newton, we have two massive, really modern buildings that, to me, they're totally out of place. But I've lived there for 30-something years, and there's been nothing on the corner anyway. It's been a variety store and a liquor store and a video store, you know. So it's the neighborhood's improving, and I do think that the architect put a really good thought into it. I think that I think it will add to the neighborhood. I don't think it'll be a drawback, that's for sure, because there hasn't, I just feel, I have to say this honestly, I feel like in our neighborhood we've had the incinerator, we've had the dump, now we have a food pantry that no one mentioned. That wasn't put out to the neighborhood. I have no problem with the food pantry, but now this is the third thing. So for him to come in and say, I'm going to develop this, I think, I'd like to develop, I think it's a good thing, you know, I do. But that all said, you guys are up, from me anyway. Okay, thanks.
Well,
did you have a question for me?
no, I'm going to say that if you have comments after you hear questions and comments by the Land Use Committee members, the public hearing will stay open, and we can hear from you again, and you can also submit questions and comments in writing to us. So this once is not the only opportunity you'll have to speak, and you can tell that to your other neighbors too who are not here tonight. It's after 9 o'clock. The sensible people are home in bed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They are. Okay.
Thanks for speaking. Anyone else want to speak? I don't see anyone on Zoom either. Councillor Block? Ward 4, again.
Yes, lots happening in Ward 4. Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions really are for planning. There's a lot going on in this corner of Newton. The food pantry, I don't think they've officially opened for business, but they're done with their construction. There's a project going on directly across the street on the corner of River and Lexington, across the street from this proposal. And there's another planned project around the corner on River Street. This sort of begs for some analysis, some overall analysis about traffic. This intersection is a heavily used intersection. As several people have mentioned, there's a lot going on Rumford Street. I mean, in addition to the food pantry, recycle center, there's business park over there. And I'm very concerned about the vehicles entering and exiting from this parcel into all of this traffic. It's like one parcel away from the intersection. And it just seems like we ought to try and get a better handle on this. And I'm wondering, planning, if you have any comment to my observation about this.
There, I'll go. In terms of exiting and entering the site, they did provide a turning analysis plan, which shows how access for each parking spot. I do understand that it is near an intersection, and I defer to Attorney Lee if he has any other comments about that. But yeah, I would turn over to the petitioner if they wanted to add anything.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. Mr. Lee, do you have anything to add?
Yes, we did provide a turning radius plan as part of our petition. That was one of the things that we anticipated as a potential question. One of the things that we had our folks review one more time is that they are able to analyze that cars will be able to turn around within the property at the end of the driveway, where it's 24 feet wide, albeit there may be multiple point turns. They are able to turn around and face front, heading off to Lexington Street. So there is that ability on the property to maneuver cars in that direction.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes,
may.
you still have the floor.
Mr. Lee, I really appreciate the attention that you and your client have paid to the amount of parking and to the turning radius on the property. I wasn't raising that as an issue. That wasn't the point of my comment. My comment is there's a lot of traffic on Lexington Street and on Rumford and on River. And you'll be adding to that. The future residents will be adding to that. There are going to be times of the day when it's going to be difficult to join the traffic. That's already the case. And I have a sense, just a sense, I don't have any data, but I think we should get the data. I don't, that there's already difficulties. There's queuing, there's backing up queuing. If the traffic going from Newton towards Waltham is backed up, which I think it will be at certain times of the day, and residents of this development want to turn left onto Lexington, that's not going to be easy for them. And if they sort of kind of give up and turn right, well then what are they going to do? I mean, where are they going to turn around to go in the direction that they really want to go in? We need to grapple with things like that. We need to have some idea about how serious, is this not serious, or is this really serious, and what are we going to do about it? And I don't expect you, as a petitioner, to have answers to this. You may, which would be fine. I believe that's the city's responsibility to do this kind of analysis, and I'm not sure we're doing it. And this intersection, I know this intersection really well. And I'm just concerned about how all this is going to play out, in part because right now, not everything is in play. The food pantry isn't fully in operation. The site right on the corner that's now just a totally demolished construction site at the intersection of River and Lexington, they're working away. I have no idea what the traffic contribution that's going to make. Those are big factors on a situation that's already complicated. So I would plead with planning to think about this and to think about what information we can get. I'm not trying to put this on you and this particular parcel development. I will say on that, 5 units is a lot for this little lot. Just a comment. I appreciate that the design is attractive, and Ms. McGovern kind of mentioned how it compares to other things, so that's a good thing. But this is packed in. That doesn't mean we won't end up approving 5, but it's pretty packed, and that's not helpful in this intersection and the interplay of all this existing traffic and new traffic that's going to be generated right here. So those are my comments. I'm ready at some point to move to hold.
Thank you. As soon as we've heard from everyone, we will all look forward to that motion. Councillor Lucas and then Leary.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know where to begin with this one. I really don't. Basically, I don't know why we're even looking at this petition right now, and I will tell you why. I'm looking at the zoning relief that's being sought. There are 13 items, which is probably a record in my time being on this council for single-family attached. 13 items of relief. One of them is to allow single-family attached dwellings. If I look at the next 12, they are all related to the size of the lot being too small for this development. 5 units is way too much for this site. I'm going to be blunt. I will not consider 5. I will not consider 4. I'm looking at to allow reduced minimum open space. I haven't heard a single reason from anyone yet why we would consider granting this particular relief. Reduced lot area. It literally says it right there, to allow reduced lot area. To allow reduced driveway width. Just go down the list, folks. Look at it. It's too small for this site. I looked at the past single-family attached dwelling units that were approved by the council last term. I want to thank Ms. Kemet for providing me the list. And I'm seeing a lot of 3 units, all 3 units, except a 4 unit on 75 Prescott Street, which I think you represented that particular developer. I think that's a fine development. But I'm looking at a lot of 3 units and 1 4 unit in last term. Some of them do require relief for lot area per unit, but not to the extent of 2,295 square feet when the minimum is 4,000 square feet. So this, quite frankly, this needs a lot of work to go through all 13 items of relief. I just don't see it happening. I don't see I'm going to supporting 5 units on the site. So those are my comments for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Councillor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Initially, my comment was regarding to Councillor Block's concerns about the intersection, and then we understand it. This isn't something that we can put on the petitioner, but maybe there's something that we could also discuss about if that intersection might need some improvements in general, as it's gradually getting much more, actually not even so gradually, with the 2 big developments on the other corners and the food pantry and this. it is getting more dense. Regarding the site itself, there is a lot of relief, and I think that speaks more to our zoning not favoring smaller or more compact units. And to be honest, I think we need to make changes that allows smaller, more compact units, because that's just more, I wouldn't even say affordable, accessible for people that might want to live in Newton. The issue here really is the 10 parking spaces. I mean, there is a bus that goes down here, and I know we are just car focused, but this might be a good place for people that wanted to live car light, for example. So it is a constrained site. There is a lot of relief that's required, and I think we're not going to get through that tonight. But I wouldn't dismiss this outright. I think this could be a little bit of an experiment for us to start look at other options and other ways that we can provide housing for residents. So it's not really the number of units that I'm worried about, more the other configuration and whether or not we want to make it so car-centric. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leary. Councilor Roach.
Thank you. For the love of God, do we have to have another black and white building? Like, just find some other materials. That whole strip of Lexington is going to be all that farmhouse modern. Just pick something different. Again, it will be less detrimental to the neighborhood to include more windows. There's a lot of blank side in elevation. I wholeheartedly agree with Councilor Leary on the point of lot area per unit minimums. They are specifically designed to create fewer larger units, and what the city needs is more smaller units. I think we should just pro forma grant relief on lot area per unit minimums. That doesn't mean we don't have to think about open space or but the lot area per unit minimum itself is just a meaningless part of our zoning, or should be, and we should just grant relief pro forma. The parking raises a very interesting dilemma, because the way around the long list of parking reliefs required is just to lower the parking minimum. If there were one parking spot per home minimums, we wouldn't need as much parking relief. And there are plenty of people who live in this city, who live in Auburndale, who get by with one car per household, especially with smaller homes. I'm going to save the best for last, which is transformers. We have got to get our arms, and in the very near future, around what the dimensions of the decision-making are on transformers. And I think this is going to be a challenge to planning and the law department. I do not think, based on my somewhat limited, but nonetheless, my involvement with the transformers to date, that this is just a black box, as it were, or gray box. There are guidelines. There are things that we can learn to minimize the risk of our conditions on the transformer then not being satisfactory to Eversource or other utilities. So the fact that Eversource may prefer a transformer in the front, is that in the guidelines? Is there something that we can go by to say when they don't permit transformers in the back? This has got a whole lot of driveway. Does that give them access? If we are going to have to live with transformers in the front setback, what exactly are the dimensions of the discussion? But I think that we are giving up a lot of our decision-making abilities by kind of hand-waving at, well, Eversource will make the decision in the end. There is information out there, and we need to find out what it is so we have a better understanding of what the contours of the possible solutions are. So that's my challenge to planning and legal, and I'm certainly willing to pitch in and figure this out. Thank you.
Councilor Roach, I appreciate your interest and dedication and commitment to this topic. And I suspect that you're more optimistic than I am about the ability to negotiate with Eversource on some of their requirements. I could be wrong. I hope I am.
It's less about, you raised a good point, and I don't mean to take up all the oxygen in the room. It's not about negotiating with Eversource. It's about understanding what their limits of negotiation are, so that if we state a preference, we know whether or not it's likely to come about or to be compliant with Eversource, right? Because it feels like we're ready to give up and put the transformer in the front setback because, well, Eversource. And I think let's at least find out what they require before we concede that. We're negotiating against ourselves.
Point well taken. I'm just speaking on behalf of myself and I think other members of the Public Facilities Committee who have been frustrated for many years by trying to deal with the utility companies and Eversource in particular. Any other questions or comments or input for the petitioner from the committee members, especially from anyone who hasn't spoken yet, which is really only me or Councilor Irish, and I'll speak next time. Anything? Any? It's 9:30. I'm fine with us calling the question. Councilor Block?
Yes, before I make this motion to hold, I really do know this neighborhood very well, and the ratio of parking spaces to units is 2 to 1, and there have been some situations where it's fallen short of that, and it creates a lot of tension and a lot of problems. So I appreciate the car light philosophy. I wish people well who live with just one car, or better yet, no cars. I don't think that's going to happen in this corner of Auburndale. Having said that, I move to hold. Thank you.
Thank you. And in relationship to the comment you just made, I hear the same thing in certain situations, and I have, for this particular site, heard that one of the conditions that other abutting uses say is, if you don't have enough parking on site, we will not agree with this either, because they don't want it to spill over and take up theirs, especially some of the commercial uses. So there's that trade-off all the time where we might wish people would be car light or one car only, and then there are others, the lack of approval given the concern of neighbors over not enough parking. So that does happen here. We have a motion before us to hold. Any other comments on that, or let's take a vote? I think we can do a voice vote. All in favor of holding, we're keeping the public hearing open. Please say aye. Aye. That looks like everyone. 7-0. Thank you. We'll see you again, Mr. Lee. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Committee members. We're adjourned. Thank you, members of the public who came. We are adjourned now.
Recording stopped.